from thehannibaltv.com, and I'm with WWE Hall of Famer, three-time NWA Tag Team Champion. He's the reigning NWA Tag Team Champion. He wrestles for New Japan. He's wrestled for pretty much every major promotion. Ricky Morton from the Rock and Roll Express. How are you doing today, sir?
Hannibal, I'm doing great. Robert and I are 9-time World Tag Team Champions for NWA. We were a lot of times, when Jimmy Crockett, when NWA shut down years ago, went to WCW. Jimmy Crockett took it to Dallas, Texas. A lot of them wasn't, I guess, recorded then. But as to us, we stick with the 9-time. So thank you very much, Hannibal.
All
Okay.
right. Well, I'll keep that one for the future. I think one day I'll have to do an in-person interview with you where we'll go through your career piece
Yeah,
by
cool, man.
piece. But today I'm just going to be kind of all over the place. A lot of
Well, understand me on my answering when I do answer it, buddy. I'm like a rubber ball. I bounce around like a son of a bitch. Okay.
All right. Well, to jump into it, I'm going to be asking mostly fan questions, and Joe
Okay.
wanted to hear about your feud with Ric Flair, and is it true that you once turned down the chance of being NWA World Champion?
Yeah, man. Cool. You know what? At that time, I felt like I was one of the luckiest guys in the world to be able. And the way this got started, that was when they was grooming Magnum TA to be to work an angle with Flair. I guess to put for them to have the feud over the belt. But then Magnum had a car wreck and paralyzed him, broke his neck. And then I was there. Robert was hurt for a little while, and I was doing some single matches, and Flair seen me. But Flair knew me anyway. I worked with Flair many times, and just something clicked right along with that to have the opportunity. And to me, I tell you, to me, Ric Flair is the greatest. He was the greatest NWA World Heavyweight Champion. Matter of fact, I think he's the best in the in the. Excuse me, easy for you to say, but I think he was the best heavyweight champion, one of the best workers ever in this business. And the reason why is when Rick stepped in the ring, I don't care where he was at, what kind of mood he was in, or how he always gave the fans some money's worth. When I first started my angle with Flair, uh, we was on bicycle tapes, and I don't know if the fans understand what a bicycle tape is. That's when it shows one town at a week all over the territory, and sometimes you're 3 weeks behind on the tapes. So by the time the people see this, when Flair and I arrived at the town, we started it off with 17 days straight in a row, hour time limit matches. And if you're one of the boys in the business, you call it Broadway. That was twice on Saturday and twice on Sunday, not including wrestling on TBS early in the morning because we filmed it. You come on at 6:05, but we filmed it like 7 o'clock in the morning every Saturday morning. But the greatest opportunity to work with Rick, and during those things, Rick and I broke attendance records all over the place. And it's, and that's what our business is about. It's about ratings and about putting asses in seats. And that's something that Rick and I did because, the business was different then. It was sacred. Uh, Nobody knew what the finishes were going to be a week ahead of time of the matches. We believed in kayfabe. And yes, I had the opportunity. But first of all, you have to understand the politics in the wrestling business. Robert and I were having great runs with the Midnight Express, the Four Horsemen, all of them. But you got to understand, dude, when you're over like that, the office, they couldn't grab that hold on you, grab you by the nuts and squeeze them. I wouldn't let them. They wanted to, they come to me. and I beat Flair. I beat him in Richmond, Virginia, for the world heavyweight title. But they brought me to back and told me they had to break me and Robert up of the Rock and Roll Express, and to make it blunt and give it, I handed it back to him and told him I didn't want it. That Robert and I started the Rock and Roll Express, dude. See, we wasn't known for just coming into territories. Robert and I, dude, we went into territories when they were rock bottom, and we blew the roofs off of them. We call it popping territories.
Yeah.
That's what Robert and I did. And don't get me wrong, a lot of people claimed that they were the best, but they'd come in when the territory was hot. Uh, Robert and I would go into the territories when they were drawing 100 people. Uh, and that's just the way it was. It's what got us over, and that's what got it. But they couldn't control me. I wouldn't let them control me and that's what's wrong with me. What happened to me in the business today, dude? I stood up for the boys. Might have been wrong. It might have hurt me in the long run, which it did hurt me in the long run. But I stood up for the boys, and I always did.
Now, for Ric Flair, I guess because you were usually facing against each other, you weren't partying with him too much.
Well, we kayfabe back then. But don't get me wrong, dude. We still, we were on the road every night. And only thing bad about the man, is because you didn't have all the people in the office and everybody that was working for them. Hell, what not? We'd be in Miami. Next night, you'd be in Los Angeles. Next night, Portland, Oregon, then back to New York City. Nowadays they have people in the office that work a certain, where you're town by town by town. They go around. It was something new. We just started something new nationwide on TV. Dude, I had a lot of good times with Flair. I don't think I didn't. And man, You got to understand this, and I'm serious. They were showing. Robert and I did these videos out of Memphis, Tennessee. That we played second fiddle to the Fabulous Ones. Then, they were some promoters tag team. He didn't want us over them. So Robert and I went out on our own, and buddy, when we did, we pumped territories, and with these videos we did, like MTV's first time people seen this in the territories, and it's the first time they seen young baby faces. You got to understand, most of the territories are owned by baby faces, and they were 300 pounds, 6'7". We when we went into the territory, man, we were the young baby faces, and wow, we were rock stars. That's what I'm trying to say. I've been with Ric Flair and Hard Rock Cafe, New York City. Chuck Berry on the stage, sitting there. I seen Rick. We was with two chicks, and he paid $2,500 a chair for us to sit up front to watch Chuck Berry in the Hard Rock Cafe. But he bought them from the people that was sitting there. So as soon as he walked in, Chuck Berry recognized us and put us on stage with him. And then I turned around, and Dan Aykroyd was sitting right beside me too, watching Chuck. But that's how over we were off at TV, man. It's all around the world. Had some great times partying with Ric Flair, dude.
And you mentioned Memphis. You had a little angle with Macho Man there where he pile drove you through a table. Any memories of working with Savage in those days?
Oh God, I worked with Savage in other territories for Nick Gullis. They had their own little territory at Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Used to go up and work for him up in there, but see, out of Memphis, like I was saying, Robert and I, we played second fiddle. The Fabulous Ones was up there with them, and and we're underneath. And the angle that we worked with Savage, it just happened. Robert and I were working him in Lanny in Memphis, and we got on the table. We was the first ones to ever break a table, and it was by accident. when Randy power drive me through the table broke. And if you notice, instead of me getting back up, going into the finish, I stayed on the floor, settling it. And see, that's what got that over. If a lot of guys, we made our own angle happen by accident, and we went around the territory and got over you. But Randy was a great worker too. He was his charisma, dude. I mean, he stand out, but uh, Randy had a lot of balls on him too. He'd take chances, but it was great. I knew Randy for years. He worked for Nick Goulas too, and he was Lanny and him and his dad, Angelo Poffo. He did the prophet gimmick. But just so happened when they broke the table and I sold it, it went right into its own angle. So and we did good business with that.
Were you ever concerned at all working with him because he had a little bit of heat at the time because he
Hey,
went from working for with Randy Savage because of the heat that he had at that time with Jerry Lawler?
no, buddy, I didn't. You see, and one thing that I like for everybody to understand, the boys. Now I told you earlier where I stood up for the boys. See, the boys were the boys. Uh, I didn't worry about. I mean, I don't know. See, because even though he had heat with Lawler, he was working the territory, so they must have worked something out. Uh, but I like Randy. I mean, we were the boys. We depended. We didn't have these guaranteed checks you got every week on contracts. I never had one. Matter of fact, you got paid by how many asses you put in the seats, and we had especially when you were having a good run, and you made the angle yourself work. I did, we were making a little money. So whatever went on with him and Lawler, that was their problem. I didn't, that didn't concern me. I didn't stick my nose in other people's businesses uh,
Right.
like that, and to be on the road. See, we worked every night together, guys, and you don't have time for shit like that. To me, I don't. I didn't. I didn't. It's even right now, even having heat with the boys. I mean, don't get me wrong. I never hated no one. Maybe I did a lot of things to try to make some money, different wise, and I stood up for the boys. But then when those boys got in charge, they didn't understand what the business was about, and they only took care of a few or only their self. Now I just liked them for doing that, but I don't hate them. How they smarter than I was? They got millions and millions. I don't. Okay.
And how did you get along with Jerry Jarrett?
Well, I started there. I started for a little promoter named Nick Goulas, uh, out of uh, out of Nashville, Tennessee. That my dad was a referee for Jerry Jarrett. And I've been in the business all my life. I knew how, but when I went to work for him, but but understand when you go into a territory, I try to tell guys. I don't know. Did you work Hannibal?
Yes, for
Okay.
a while, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, did you work territories or did you work for big companies?
Basically Puerto Rico, England, basically
Okay. Yeah.
territories.
Yeah. We'll see. And now you understand. I mean, if you work for Carlos in Puerto Rico, you weren't going to get over Carlos. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Especially if you was a babyface. In Memphis, Jerry Jarrett was a booker. He wasn't wrestling at the time, but Jerry Lawler and Bill Dundee were the two top baby faces. I seen a lot of people coming in and try to buck them, and they didn't last the territory too long. And this is and the reason I asked you that earlier, I'm bouncing, dude,
That's
is
fine.
because people, I wish the territories had come back. But see, the territories are not good for the boys. It's only good for the owner. Take for instance, and I tell you this right here. This so happened. And our business has been at the right place at the right time. But you asked me about Jerry Jarrett. I got along great with Jerry Jarrett. I just wasn't his boys. You understand me?
Yes.
He invented the Fabulous Ones. They were the tag team. Jerry Lawler invented Robert and I, but we were second fiddle to the Fabulous Ones. You hear me? And the
Yeah.
reason why, because they were going to go opposition, and maybe later on this interview we get into that. But we weren't going to get over the Fabulous Ones, no matter what. But to tell you about territories, Bill Watts run Mid South, and he was the top baby face, and he didn't like small workers because he was a big guy. You was a small heel, you didn't work there. I mean, you didn't. You had to be big. And for instance, when we went in to Louisiana, I think Abdullah the Butcher, if I recall, he was the top babyface. And the reason he was the top babyface is because Bill Watts was the top babyface, and he just had his blow off with Abdullah, where Abdullah was the top heel, and he beat Abdullah. So their angle's over. Now they got to get a new heel to come in. So the new heel comes in, and he beats everybody in the territory. Then he shoots an angle with Abdullah, because Abdullah's the top babyface, and then that heel beats Abdullah. Then Bill Watts wrestles the top heel. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's the way territories worked. If you were a good heel, you'd go into the territory and you'd have a good run, make money with the top babyface that owned the territory, or the top, or the booker that pushed himself as the top babyface. And you know what I'm talking about when you see stuff like that right there. But as getting along with Jerry, man, Memphis territory was the greatest place in the world to learn the business. You had some of the greatest workers in the business that come through there, and that really started there. At that time, you worked every night. You had shows, spot shows and house shows. Especially Memphis. Memphis is every Monday night. Louisville, Kentucky, every Tuesday. Evansville, Indiana was either territory. Then your spot shows, uh, live TV. Nashville, Jonesboro every Saturday night. So when you was in a territory, you worked every night and you learned this business. And I watched, even when I went to NWA and met Dusty, dude, I watched everything these guys did. Everything, how to draw money, what puts asses in seats and what don't put asses in seats. So as for me getting along with Jerry Jarrett, I got along with him great, still do. Uh, I learned a lot from him. Sometimes it's hard to believe. And see, Jerry Jarrett in his day, he was a. Don't get me wrong, he wasn't one of the top workers in the world, but he was a baby face. And if guys would understand this, excuse me, being a baby face, what gets you over is selling. And I learned that from Jerry Jarrett about selling. Selling's what gets you over. You know, uh, you watch the independents and some of the shittiest stuff you ever seen in your life. But everybody can leapfrog, drop down, and drop kick and do a moonsault because you see 1,000 of them every show. Uh, but there's only a few that know how to work, and that's the part of our business that's lost now. But it's still there. I have people ask me all the time about, do you think wrestling will ever come back? Wrestling's never dead. Wrestling's entertainment. Now everybody knows it's entertainment. But when they learn how to go back to the old days and keep the entry, see, nowadays, me, especially me being in a business, when I watch TV, I can tell you what they're going to do. And I'm not even follow the match. I know what's going to happen on the finish. I know where it's leading to. I know where it's going. But when you guys, great baby faces, learn how to tell those stories uh, to keep the people going. But to answer your question, I got along great with Jerry Jarrett.
And for Mid South, where you were just talking about, how did you find the travel? Because I heard that was pretty brutal travel.
Yeah, every territory was brutal back then. it was just long. Only thing wrong about them in South there, you only had one interstate, and it went east and west. That was Interstate 10. Now it's not like that, but you had long trips. I mean, your trips were 350 miles, but most of them were just two-lane highways. Uh, and then every other weekend, you flew to Oklahoma City. You did a double shot then on that Sunday. You was at Oklahoma City afternoon and Tulsa that night, but you flew that show. Uh, but the other ones, yeah, I mean, it wasn't the part about them being really, really long. It was the part that was no interstates and two-lane highways, going through your big towns like Alexander Shreveport, Monroe, Louisiana. There was no interstates going to them. All two-lane. You go through 100 little towns, man. Jeez, it's but the travel it was hard, but the territory was great. I had a lot of fun there. Young in the business and getting the push that Bill Watts gave us. Man, we it was something different at that time, and Bill finally learned too. Bill Watts. He if you read his book, he had his territory for 10 years, and the 2 years that Robert and he made more money in those 2 years than he did put together in the 8 years that he run the territory.
So you got along well with him, I imagine.
Well, I was this candy kid, but wasn't that? I treat people the way they treat me, and understand me. If you own a business, if you have a job that you work 8 hours a day, and it's from 7 to 3 or 7 to 4. Okay, they expect you to be there at 7 and time clock. See, that's all. It's only things that Bill Watts asked you. And let me tell you, he asked you to be there an hour before the show. Uh, and then after a while, especially when we did our angles with the Midnight Express, we had riots every night. And then he made nobody could leave the building till the shows were over because, the marks hitting the ring. And golly, I watched Jimmy Cornette get his ass whooped. Really, I watched him learn how to fight because he got his ass whooped so many times he got tired of it. But that was the whole thing of the territory. I got along with you guys great, and I still do. Bill. But like I was saying, Bill. At any job, you got to clock in at 7, so don't be late. If you get late, you get docked, and that's the same thing that Bill Watts did. And Bill Watts, Robert and I were the only two that could wear blue jeans, but they had to have a crease in them because he made you dress the part of who you were. So I mean, he didn't ask that much from you, so he wasn't that really hard ass. He ran a mall. He ran a business, and when you're the boss man, you can run your business any way you want to.
Were you working for Mid South when Sting had his incident with Dick Slater there?
Yes, I was. I wouldn't. I just came in. Me and Flair were, I'd been there, but I was having my run with Flair, and the Bill Watts territory was still open. I know that I really don't know what happened because it was all because me and Flair were in the back in the bathroom, and Steen come in to put his makeup on. Then here comes Slater in, and it was bop bop bop, and that was all. And I'm getting back to the point. I didn't. I'm one of the boys. That was none of my business. I didn't know what was happening. Uh, Now Dick Slater was a tough son of a bitch. You hear me? Not to be a shooter or that. He was just a tough ass.
Right. Now, you mentioned riot situations. You were a baby face, but most of your career. But what was the scariest riot situation you've been involved with?
Got up, dude. I remember one time Nikolai Volkov. They had the gimmick where he put the rope around my neck and threw me over the top rope, and I'm hanging. But I wasn't scared for myself. I was scared for them because I seen a guy come running with a knife, and I screamed at Nikolai Volkov, and the guy went right down with the knife. I'm gonna tell you how precise this cut was. It hit the side of his boot and went all the way down past the ankle. And when Nikolai stepped out, he stepped out of his boot. But I seen a lot of them like that. I seen Dennis Condridge, a guy hit the ring with a knife, and cut Dennis. Uh, Guys, it was a different time and different place, and every night was like that. Not only fearing for ourselves, but the crowd, because man, people would throw. You work Puerto Rico. Gosh, man, I don't know the time I was there, man. I remember Robert and I were wrestling Bobby Jagger's Daddy Crawford in a match, and I'm looking for the referee, and I couldn't. And I look, he's outside the ring. Somebody hit him in the head with a brick, and he was doing convulsions. And then it's the part about the fans, because people throw stuff. They throw batteries. Jimmy Cornette had more heat due to the eye of the stove. Gosh, on money. People hated him. Many times on the finishes, especially using the tennis racket, I'd take the bump and open that one eye. Hey, I'd watch them fight and fight their ass off. Baton Rouge one night out, and we were lucky. For just some reason, I told Robert we had a hell of a crowd too, and we was the last. And it's when you're on last when they let the crowd out. I says, as soon as the match is over, let's meet you. Or my car is parked outside the door of the dressing room. Let's run and get in our car to leave our stuff on and go home, because we was on the road all the time. It's like an hour and a half from Baton Rouge back to Alexandria, where we lived at. That way, you get there quick. Get home, spend a few more hours with him. But we had, but we had a riot. God Almighty, and they was everywhere. But boom, I rode out the ring, and me and Robert just shot out the back door. But the police come in and arrested everybody, even Ernie Ladd. They arrested everybody for inciting a riot. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But Robert and I's ass was out of there. It was like that a lot of times, man. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Jimmy Cornette was a tough guy, but I watched him. I guess when you get your ass whooped so many times, you're going to fight back.
Yeah.
So, and that happened here.
There was a bunch of fans that wanted me to ask you what you think of Jim Cornette these days, and I know you have a good relationship with AEW. Some of his opinions that he gives.
You know what, dude? You live in Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah, but here in the United States, a lot of people died to have the freedom of speech. And don't get me wrong, I don't agree with Jimmy Cornette on a lot of things. But my opinion's like my ass. Everybody's got one. Jimmy can talk. He has the right to say what he wants to say. Sometimes I don't agree with him. But I don't hate him. You understand? I get along with Cornette. I talked to him last week about something he called me. But you see, that's the part about stirring up shit in our business. One time I did the greatest thing in the world. I was the first one to do it. I had a shoot interview on Kevin Nash. But it wasn't a part about me talking about Kevin. I hated him. I knew nobody had done this before. And you see, it's always that little bit of doubt. That's what keeps the wrestling fans coming back, that little bit of doubt. And it worked. Beat Kevin. We worked a match off that. And man, we drew one of the biggest independent houses ever. It's like a $76,000 gate that me and him did. So, but to go back to what I'm talking about, Jimmy Cornette. Another thing is Jimmy Cornette gets paid a lot of money for his podcast to speak his opinions like that. But it don't bother me. And if it bothers anybody else, It's me. I just it goes through one ear, not the other ear. I really, I'm sorry, but that's the way I feel about that. I really don't give a shit what he
Yeah.
says about anybody. I don't really, and if anybody takes it to heart and they're mad about it, smarten up. Shit, who gives a shit?
I'm gonna guess he's the favorite manager that you worked with over the years.
Oh no, buddy. I made a lot of money with it. We made, and I tell you this, us in the Midnight Express, dude. We made history in this wrestling business, in my opinion. In 1985 and 1986, 87, Robert and I think we were the greatest tag team in the world. If you don't believe me, just ask me. I'm just kidding. But what I'm trying to say is, man, we drew money. Robert and I didn't go into territories when it was already hot. We went into them and popped them. Not only did Louisiana, Memphis, but we'd go down. Eddie Graham, he ran Florida at the time. Robert and I would go in there. God, man, he'd sell out houses. Out to Kansas City, sell out houses. We wouldn't work the territory, but we'd go in there. We were just over. Uh, and to get back, hell, what was the question you asked me? I told you I'm like a
If
damn
uh,
ball bouncing around.
if Jim Cornette was your favorite
Oh
heel,
yeah, now to get back to, I made a lot of money with him, and we made history together. Then the Midnight Express versus the Rock and Roll Express, the Expresses versus the Expresses. But God, there's a lot of great managers. Sir Oliver Humperdinck, God, I love it. He was great. Paul Jones, Skandar Akbar. Uh, we made a lot of money with all these guys with different teams. I remember in the early days, Don Carson. Now, do you remember Don Carson? He was a great worker, and he became a manager later on in his years. But Jimmy, uh, with his mouth, he had more heat than any manager I ever seen. God, man, you to explain it to you, I can't. To explain to you the way things worked back then, you had to be a part of it. You had to understand it because everything we did meant something. Dennis Condrey and Bobby Eaton. Bobby Eaton, and Dennis was the leader of the pack. He had the more experience, and Bobby was. These guys were such great workers, and they knew how to get heat, and they knew how to keep it. As me working on independent shows, yeah, but I'm 64 years old, and I still work all the time. and But to go on and try to explain to some of these guys, you have your independent show and they have a great match, and the heel will fuck the baby face, but then the heel will get right on the microphone and kill himself off. And I'm trying to tell them, I said, don't do that. And they look at me like I got a turd on my head. That's the whole point of being a heel. You got to cheat. You're the baby face outsmarts you. The heel, you got to cheat to get him down. And at the end of the match, the heel's got to screw you to win the match. But then when you stay out there and you get on the microphone, you kill yourself off. A lot of guys don't understand that kind of stuff. In our business, is a knowledge of a knowing when to go, when to get out of there, and understanding our business. I was at a part of time in the business and with Jimmy Cornette, you're talking about him. Before I knew Jimmy before he got in the wrestling business. He started in Memphis. And the same thing, I remember when he was a picture guy. He took pictures around the ring, sliding back and forth on knee pads. It was the craziest thing in the world. And I remember Jerry Jarrett told him, he said, Jimmy, if you can get enough heat with the crowd, as you did the boys, he goes, we're going to make $1 million. And boy, did he ever. He knew how to talk. He knew how to pinch that nerve. And, and, and like me, I knew how to take care of him. When you're wrestling and you go back and watch our matches, unless it was a blow off but I never even got close to Jimmy Cornette because as me being the baby face, if I touch him, it takes the heat off of him.
right.
And You see, guys don't understand shit like that. They always want, they get that pop. I got to get my shit in. Let me get my shit in, and none of it means nothing. Uh, and the bigger companies I watch today, dude, this is what I do. This is who I am. And then if you're interested, Hannibal, if you get a chance, I at the School of Morton. It's on Facebook. I have a YouTube show that comes on every Sunday at 5:05 on YouTube. That's Eastern time, and it's just people from my school, and we do real good. And I run a wrestling school, but you see, before you could teach anybody our business, is you got to make them understand it. If you don't understand our wrestling business, you're never going to get it. I watch some of the stuff in the big organizations. This is what I do. This is who I am. I would love to be a part of them, but listen to me. The boys changed, and I have the right to say what I want to say. Is I believe that the other guys they don't want me there but you see, I don't want their job. If I get hired by a company, I want Ricky Morton's job. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I want my job because I know this business. When I do these shows on the independents, and we're coming back in 2 weeks, and I know how to do the finish. Boom. It's even like Ricky Morton. You've been 9-time world tag team champions, yes, but I didn't want to be a champion. And the reason I didn't want to be a champion is not the point about that, but understanding our business, I can't make money being a champion. The people pay their money to see me beat the Hill, but the Hill keeps screwing me every week. You see what I'm saying? And then you come back next week where a match where he can't screw me like that, but he'll screw me another way. Always, that's how you put asses in seats every week, and that's what I was good at. And see, that's still there to a point. I mean, damn. I mean, how many Hurricane Coronas? How many moonsaults? How many dives out on the floor? Can you watch in one damn show on TV? It happens. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
I mean, you watch it. I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, I'm expecting for him to shoot Hugo out of the fucking cannon the next show. But the bad part about shooting him out of the cannon, he's going to kick out on two. And that's what really blows my mind a lot. But Jimmy Cornette, to get back to your answer, I'm that ball bouncing around, but Jimmy Cornette's great. I like him. He was a good manager, but there's a lot more because in our days, everybody could work.
Now, Dusty Rhodes, you've said some stuff against him over the years. I don't know how much of that was shoot or just trying to get some heat, but what is your overall opinion of working with
But,
Dusty Rhodes these days?
well, don't get me wrong. I even told Cody this. It wasn't gravy train with Dusty. Me and him had a lot of fuck you matches. You hear me? But that was a part of the business. But God, he was a genius. I learned so much from Dusty, and you see about understanding. And I was telling you this, understanding the business, and don't get me wrong, but when in our thing is a Rock and Roll Express, most of the angles were done with me. Uh, it's because Dusty would call me down to the office on. We did TV on Tuesdays. I'd go down to the office on Mondays by myself. And you see, this is what's wrong, and this is what Dusty did. Dusty would set me down and explain the angle. So don't get me wrong. A lot of guys, when the booker come in, he pushed himself. A lot of times he pushed himself because he knew what kind of ideas he wanted in his mind. But if you look around, how many of the baby faces can do what he really wants and to feel what he really feels? Well, Dusty told me I had that gift. Okay. Uh, I, he told me I had that gift, and I'd sit down and I would understand. when I can make that guy on the front row feel what I'm feeling, dude, that's when you got him. Dusty seen that in me. I don't, Terry Reynolds, with Dustin's daughter, uh, by Terry Reynolds. She come to me one time and she told me, she says, I was talking to my grandpa one time and I asked him that even though that you were the best baby face in the world, she's talking about Dusty, right? Her grandpa. But she asked him and who the one of the best workers in the business was, and she told me, she said, Dusty told, so my grandpa told me that Ricky Morton was the best ever in the business. And, and that's a great compliment. But see, had a lot of things, buddy, you're on the road every time and you do and you're in this business and some things you don't like, because, I had my opinions too. Uh, Sometimes a little bit of jealousy will get you in this business. Even I have felt that. Uh, Everybody does. But as get along with Dusty, I mean, at the end of the day, I hugged his neck and kissed him and told him I loved him. Do you understand what I'm coming from there?
Yeah.
But yeah, but no, we had our fuck you times. You see what I'm saying? But it wasn't nothing like this. I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong. He fired my, here goes. How's this go? Well, he fired my ass and he fired Robert Gibson and he fired Michael Hayes and Dr. Death too. You see what I'm saying? Uh, but I, overall, Dusty's the greatest mind ever in this business. And I soaked every bit of it up like a sponge. I just hadn't had my chance yet. And when my chance does come, watch out, buddy. All hell's going to break loose.
And how did you like working with Tully Blanchard?
I love Tully Blanchard. I worked for him when I was a kid earlier in my days. Uh, my dad, well, I told you, he's in a business, and I'm so he could see, it's like he could see the future. He told me, he said, tag team wrestling's where it's going to be at. And, uh, and I was fortunate. My first tag team partner was Sonny King. Uh, God, he was great. I learned a lot from him. And then I was a young kid in the business, and I went to another territory for Oklahoma, and Eddie Gilbert was my partner. But Eddie Gilbert was only 17. A lot of places he couldn't work because he wasn't old enough to get a wrestling license. But then I went back to Memphis, and I teamed up with a guy named Ken Lucas. And a lot of people tell me, Ricky Morton, you were the greatest baby face in this business. But no, Ken Lucas was the greatest baby face in this business. I teamed up with Ken, and me and him went to Southwest Championship Wrestling, which was owned by Joe Blanchard, Tully Blanchard's dad. And Tully was the booker. Tully seen a lot in me then. Uh, I learned so much from Ken. I worked with Tully and Gino Hernandez. Guys, we had some unbelievable matches. But then Tully there too seen me as in a single. He brought, and you're talking about managers. The best one that I left out was Bobby Heenan. Gosh, I mean, how did I leave him out a while ago? But Nick Bockwinkel came in, and Bobby Heenan see me wrestle Ken Lucas in a match, so he set it up with Tully because he kept wrestling the same Scott Casey or somebody like that here, and they gave me a little push as a young kid. Tully did to work with Nick, but understand, I mean, we were in a territory where Tully was the booker, his dad owned it, me and Ken Lucas, and the territory did great. Don't get me wrong, we didn't. I mean, we like the business is nowadays, but man, we did great business. So as a Tully, I as business wise, and as friendships, I see him every now and then. I know his daughter real good, Tessa. I don't know why somebody hadn't signed her for a couple of $1 million a year. She's unbelievable. But she learned from her dad. Tully had a great. He's got a great mind for the business. I don't know if you know this or not. Tully he played football at West Texas State. It's where a lot of the boys played from. I don't know if you know this or not, but Tully was quarterback there in college. He was a true athlete, man. I'm not bullshitting you. I tell you the best thing, if you ever see Tully again, you ought to pass football with him. Because, man, he'll throw a football and knock your ass down with it. I ain't never seen somebody throw a football so hard in my life. But knowing Tully, did a lot of business with Tully, made a lot of money with Tully. He was a big part of the Four Horsemen. And his interviews, gosh, great.
Could you tell the story about you saw him on this religious show, and he kind of
Oh, I
got.
knew you was going to ask me that. But you know what? That happened another time too. Especially when especially when you don't want to be noticed. You know what I'm saying? That was what Tully. He was turning religious at the time, and my first wife. We got a divorce after that. But that's the way it was, dude. I was in a business that I had the world ahead of me. But she was turning religious. And she said, Tully Blanchard's going to be on the 700 Club tonight. And let's watch it. Lord and behold, here comes Tully out there. And it's not me and the boys. It's me and Ricky Morton. Ounces of cocaine, women every night, blah, 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 blah. And I actually watched horns grow out of my wife's head at that time. I just did a forward flip right out in the middle of the road and just laid there. She dropped the elbow, covered me 1, 2, 3. It was over with. I was gone. But and another time, dude, it's just your name being a part of something. And hell, I don't do that. It's a lot. Let me tell you, dude, I partied a lot in my life, but I was never with a girl that didn't want to be with me, never underage, never messed around with any of the boys' girlfriends or their wives, even after they broke up with them. That wasn't, I'm one of the boys, I'm one of the true boys. No, stayed away from them and understand that that's the way I did. That's the way I did things. But now here I am with a guy that makes he's a cripple boy, and he's making my DVDs for me, and he usually goes with me and helps me sell them. And I called him. I says, "Will you?" He says, "Oh, I got to go out of town to do something." I said, "All right, I'll meet you." But I never heard from him for like a week or two. And I'm watching. Remember did y'all get the show there called The Predator?
Oh, To Catch a Predator. Yeah.
Yeah, To Catch a Predator.
Yeah.
I'm watching this on TV. And the reason that got me to watch it is because they got a guy called the Wrestling Dude. And I said, the Wrestling Dude? It caught my eye. So I'm watching this. And all of a sudden, I look at it's Dustin. And he's reading off all this shit that he told this girl. And the girl ain't but like 12 years old. And I got it. And my daughters were young at that time. And I said, God, I'd have killed this son of a bitch if he'd have done that to my kids. You understand me? But then they kept calling. And the guy, holy shit, man. I watched TV and he asked this guy, he goes, why do you call yourself the Wrestling Dude? Because he's crippled. He goes, oh, I work for Ricky Morton of the Rock and Roll Express. Hey, I almost shit on myself. Well, you son of a bitch, shut up. You don't work for me. You just make DVDs for me. It was, after you think about it, it's funny as hell.
Yeah.
But it wasn't at the time. And it's right now the thing with Tully. At the time it wasn't, but now it's funny. Who gives a shit? I don't. I hate him for it because the marriage wouldn't have lasted anyway. I've
Have
been
you?
happily married a bunch of times. No, I'm lying to you. I've been after that. I've been married to the same woman after that all these years. Go ahead.
Just because Tully Blanchard is a preacher, have you heard about all this stuff going on with Ted DiBiase lately?
Uh, I know Ted's a preacher, but I ain't heard what's going on. Tell me about it. What's up?
Well, I won't. I'm not an expert on it, but supposedly he received millions of dollars of welfare funding that was put into his ministries, and there's a big investigation going on over it now.
Uh, well, you know what? Uh, I really don't have an answer for that. But one thing that I do, and you always remember this, Paul, uh, I believe I believe in Jesus Christ. You hear me? I'm a firm believer. Now I'm me. God knows me. I say my prayers to everybody, and that stuff. But you see, when you mess with the religious stuff, it's going to come back and bite you. And the ultimate price you're going to pay is when your ass dies. Uh, that's just the way, to me, I look at it. Don't know what Ted's done. Ted's always been nice to me. I always been nice with him. He is a hell of a worker, man. What great matches I had with him. Uh, Matter of fact, I was working him in the Superdome when Jimmy Crockett come to see us, and I told Ted, it was the way with Ted, Doctor Death. I said, Jimmy, a little man out here come and told me he come all the way from Charlotte, North Carolina, to watch us wrestle. I didn't know Jimmy Crockett at the time. He goes, yeah, I'll never forget. Ted said, "Well, we give him something to see." By God, we did too. But getting on with the religious stuff, I know a lot of the boys. I've been at some of the wrestling sign-ins, the Comic Cons, and they'd be sitting at the table, and all the boys sitting at the table are so-called religious guys, and I'm eating, and I'd get up with I'd get up from the table, go sit at another table because I thought lightning was going to hit that son of a bitch, buddy. God Almighty, yeah, all y'all gonna burn in hell. I'm not bullshitting you, but there's a lot of legit guys out there. George South, and I think Tully's really, when I'm with, I like the guys when they don't try to push it on you. You understand me?
Yeah.
I know as much as about the Bible as a lot of them do, and it surprises them when they do stuff. Me and Tully was talking one time, and we was talking about reading the Book of John's, but we said it at the same time. He goes, "Holy shit, you read that?" I said, "Yes." To me, it's the most meaningful chapter in the Bible. But but George South, and then the guys that come on to you that try to push it on to you. No, get away from me, man. I don't want to listen to you. You, that's not my thing. But go ahead, man. Yeah, I got carried away there for a second.
There was a fan named Rick Brooks. He wanted to know if you had any experiences with Mad Dog Buzz Sawyer over the years.
Oh, I knew Buzz. Never had no experience with him. I watched him and Tommy Rich just beat the living piss out of each other for a couple of years. Uh, that's another underrated. I know that we're talking about Bud Sawyer, but Tommy Rich, what an underrated wrestler after the years. In his time, he was the first Hulk Hogan, uh, first Steve Austin, the first Rock, and a lot of people don't even understand that. But you see, he had talent to work with him like Buzz Sawyer. Buzz Sawyer was an unbelievable heel. Uh, he'd party all night. he shouldn't. He'd party all night. I tell you what, I seen Buzz Sawyer do one time. Uh, Me and Robert were coming from it. We were going to Tupelo, Mississippi, back to Memphis to do TV, and Buzz Sawyer was in the territory doing something. And Robert, he chewed Copenhagen, and he'd spit it in the beer bottle. And Buzz Sawyer seen that, and Buzz says, "Man, what is that stuff right there?" He says, and Robert told him, but he thought Robert was drinking a beer out of the beer bottle instead of spitting it in there. So he
Yeah.
put some in his mouth, and hell, he didn't know you're supposed to spit it out. He's drinking beer with it. He on about 10 miles. He says, I pull this GD car over. But I pulled it over. It's pouring down raining. I pulled over. He jumped out and he threw up like a son of a gun. And where it was raining, there was water about a foot deep, and he laid off in that water. And I told him, I said, Buzz, get up out of that water. He says, hell no, it feels good. He was the sickest son of a bitch I've ever seen in my life. Man, that next day at TV, he told me, he says, I turned purple. Yeah, are you a chewer?
No, but I've
Okay,
been
yeah,
around a lot of chewers.
oh yeah, that should. Copenhagen's the main event too, Bo. And he stuck that in his mouth. Holy shit, his whole world turned upside down. But no, Buzz. At that time when Buzz was in Atlanta and stuff, I was working, the Texas territories, the Kansas City territories, uh, Oklahoma territories before Bill Watts. That's when Leroy McGurk had it. So, but I knew Buzz, knew his brother too.
How did you get along with Ole Anderson in Atlanta?
Ole Anderson. Ole Anderson was another guy that didn't like small guys. We worked with the Midnight Express, and we shot that angle with the Four Horsemen. And to tell you the truth, now everybody's going on vacation. Jimmy Crockett's paying for the boys to go where they want to, but we got to work that week, and they called it the Rock and Roll Super Summer Sizzling Tour, and it was the angle off of where they run my face. We were wrestling Ole and Arn.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're at spot shows for the first week, but the spot shows that only do 300 people. Man, we're going out on football fields doing. And I'm serious. I'm not just trying to pat myself on the back, but man, we're doing 20,000 people on football fields. And he'd tell me, he'd go, God, I don't know how this angle here is growing. I don't understand it. I don't know. Baba. So finally, we get to the serious stuff. Hampton, Virginia. The big Coliseum that, the bicycle tape just showed, boom. And we're wrestling Ole and Arn. And they're in the ring, naturally me and Robert hit the ring, boom, you know what I'm saying? But I got Ole in the corner. And I guess he thinks, since I'm a young kid, this is my first rodeo. I done hit him 750 times. You see what I'm saying? And he's just rocking on the top rope. So finally, I just stopped and I looked at him right in the eyes. I turned around, I walked back to the middle of the ring, and I just took a big old bump. Bam, by myself. He looked at me and said, what the hell are you doing? I said, fuck. I mean, you won't go down. I thought I would. Hey, bro. He told me, he says, I don't know whether to whoop your ass or shake your hand. He said, you got more balls than a Brahma bull. I told him, but he knew. But what he's trying to do is blow me up. You know what I'm saying? To make me look. Yeah, I won my first rodeo. Man, I worked with the best of them. But after that, this son of a bitch loved me. I mean, bro, he'd take slams off the top rope. He'd take bumps for me. You understand what I'm saying? And he wouldn't for nobody else. But you had to know Ole. Ole hated everything. I don't think he even liked ice cream. You understand me? This son of a bitch, always bitching about something. But God, I learned a lot from Ole, though. Don't get me wrong. It took me a while to get to know him and for him to know me. But I mean, he was a true professor in our business. I can tell you that.
And Tommy Rich was really over in that territory. I've heard that Tommy Rich and you guys had the most groupies. Is that true?
Had the most what?
Groupies, like in wrestling. I always hear Tommy
Groupies.
Rich.
I don't know about that. You know what, bud? Uh, we were rock stars. You understand me? Tommy Rich was in Atlanta. I wasn't in Atlanta at the time Tommy was there. Tommy, he started in Memphis too. And the reason he went to Atlanta, he got pissed off at Jerry Jarrett. Jerry Jarrett wouldn't give him the top push. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was owned by them, and it was his way. So, he went to Atlanta, and Jim Barnett, my boy, he seen something in Tommy Rich. But Tommy Rich, that's what guys got to say. Nowadays, the young wrestlers, they have their heroes in the wrestling business, and I'm going to tell you this: Tommy Rich was my hero. I'm older than Tommy, but Tommy was. He was one of my heroes in the wrestling business because he did it the hard way. I like Tommy. You talking about a bit around the block, and I told you this earlier. I've been with a lot of women, but none of them that didn't want to be with me. Didn't they wanted to? I never, and they was all, but none of them, none of them were underage, and I never messed with none of the boys' girlfriends or their wives, even after they broke up or split up. I had nothing to do with them because I was one of the boys. If you're talking about getting a lot of pussy, yeah, I got a lot of pussy, bro. Okay, just to put it to you blunt, had a lot of good times. Hell, dude, at that time I didn't even go to bed for 20 fucking years. So does that tell you anything? Uh,
Yeah.
did a lot of partying, fella.
Will wrestling ever be that way again with that many girls? Because I don't think
No,
it's
no,
like
no, 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 no. Our world has changed. Uh, uh, now I'm scared to say hi to a lady. I live in a small town once you know everybody, but hell, you don't even know nowadays what's really going on in the world. I was in New York, for this coronavirus, and I'm not bullshitting you, man. I was walking to a building, and a lady was behind me, so I just opened the door up for her. Let her go in front of me. Boy, she pointed that finger in my face and says, "I'm not gonna tip you." Where in the hell did that come from? But a lot of stuff like that, man. I just, now our world has changed. About that. No, no, it'll never come back to that again, bro. I'm telling you, you just go back and watch some of our old matches and watch me coming to the ring. I posted one not long ago, me coming to the ring, wrestling Flair. They literally tore my clothes off before I got to the ring. Uh, not only the security, it took the security and the police to get my ass into the ring. Uh, because of that, I was known as a rock star, and it was fucking cool as hell.
now there was a rare match of you in the AWA with Robert against the British Bulldogs. How did that whole thing's come about?
Oh, that wasn't in AWA, but
No.
that was for Baba,
Oh,
Japan.
okay.
Yes, that was Baba for Japan. I don't know who posted that. That was in. I'm gonna tell you about this match now. Baba come over to do a taping in the States, and they did it in Kansas City. And what you don't know is that we did it in that old memorial building in Kansas City, us against the British Bulldogs, in this 30-minute match. Well, what you got to understand, dude, it was 3 feet of snow on the ground. It was below zero the temperature, and that old building, man, I couldn't warm up. I couldn't give the match that I wanted to, uh, because until they played our music and I come out that curtain, dude, I had an overcoat on, hat, gloves. I was free. I'm a Southern boy. My ass was freezing to death, and but that was for because we was the babyface tag team and they were the babyface tag team. They didn't want to be each other, so was just going to do a 30-minute Broadway. But that was for Baba's Old Japan Wrestling. Uh, Robert, that's where Robert and I. That was the first company we ever worked for in Japan.
Okay.
Yes.
How did you meet Robert anyways, just to ask that question?
Well, no, he was a tag team wrestler too. His brother wrestled, Ricky Gibson, and he was a great baby face too, buddy. He was a hell of a worker. Uh, they wrestled this Ricky and Robert Gibson in Memphis. There was an underneath team. I knew Robert for a long time. I knew Robert before. Yeah, I wrestled Robert several times. Before we became the Rock and Roll Express in territories. He wrestled for, in Pensacola, little territories, Memphis for Nick Goulas out of Nashville. Uh, I knew him that way.
So
Knew him
you
from the
just
business.
gravitated towards each other?
Well, no, yeah, I mean, he was just my friend. Now, see, in order to become the Rock and Roll Express, now this is what I'm going to tell you, and we talked about this earlier because we played second fiddle to the Fabulous Ones in Memphis. I was wrestling in San Antonio. Me and Ken Lucas were partners, and Jerry Lawler came into the territory that night to wrestle Tully, I think. But when he was there, he got me and took me into a room and told me, he says, "Listen, me and Jerry Jarrett are not getting along right now, and I'm going to go opposition of him." Do you know what I mean by opposition?
Yeah.
Okay, he was going to
Start
open up his own territory. He says, "They got the Fabulous Ones. I want to bring you and Robert Gibson and think of some gimmick to put y'all together to go against Jerry Jarrett." Well, going back to Memphis was going home for me. You understand me? My run was about up with Ken Lucas. Uh, I was looking for something new because I wanted to be a tag team wrestler, and I knew Robert. So gave my notice, and lo and behold, when we got to Memphis, Jerry Jarrett and Lawler had done made up, so he's not going opposition. So now, naturally, Jerry Jarrett were second fiddle to the Fabulous Ones. But brother, and we didn't even have a gimmick. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna tell you, Lawler, him, Dutch Mantel, and Jimmy Hart were trying to think of a gimmick. Ricky Robert R&R, Rolls Royce, and Jimmy Hart, Rock and Roll, the Rock and Roll Express. So now we come up with that. So we tried to look at magazines, and I bought some. Me and Lawler bought some old rock star, magazines back then, and we kind of come up with some gimmicks. With us a gimmick there. I'm gonna tell you, dude, they done plugged us on TV. We're gonna be at the Mid South Coliseum. For some reason, we did TV on that Saturday, which we did every Saturday, but Memphis was on Sunday afternoon. But they usually do Memphis. I think they had a basketball game going to be there on that Monday night, and so they had the wrestling on Sunday. And hell, dude, at 12 o'clock, I'm at Lawler at the Coliseum. They had a flea market out back of the Coliseum, big old flea market, and we went over there and bought our gimmicks, feathers, bandanas. Oh, y'all see this shit. I was embarrassed. Me and Robert both were embarrassed as hell to go. We never did nothing like this. We got shit all over us. We went out to wrestle, dude. Let me tell you, we went out and wrestled two of the guys there in Memphis, and son of a bitch, we had our stuff together. We were over. You hear me?
Yeah.
Instantly. But when we come out of the ring, I never forget. Some guy told me, said, "Damn, I didn't know if y'all was Indians or gypsies." I said, "Me either, bro." But chemistry in the ring, Robert and I clicked because we were both tag team wrestlers and we knew what we were doing. Uh, and it did. I mean, dude, we could tear a house down in a heartbeat. And, and chemistry, it fell together. We did a lot of good shit, man. A lot of good stuff.
Did WWE ever reach out to you in the 80s when you guys
Not
were?
really. No, no, no. The only reason we was there was WWF. Uh, First of all, the first thing we did was we worked that angle with Smoky Mountain with Tom Pritchard and Jimmy Del Rey because they were going to WWF. And the Smoky Mountain, they worked a gimmick where they would, and I wrestled them on their pay per view. We wrestled Jimmy Del Rey and Tom Pritchard. And then after Smoky Mountain closed down, and that's just the reason I like Jimmy Cornette. You see, and he's even though you might not agree with him, but he took care of us. We didn't have no job,
Right.
so he taught Vince and bringing us in as the NWA versus the WWF. You see what I'm saying, bro? It was me, Barry Windham, and Robert, and I think Jeff Jarrett. Uh, and but you see, it was so much going on at WWF, we was just lost in the shuffle. But one thing about it, we didn't have signed paper contract, but just being there, they paid us so much a week until that ran out. You ever heard that story? Rock and roll's here to stay or until the money runs out. But that was part of what we did, Bo.
How was the dressing room in WWF compared to WCW and NWA?
Oh, but it's about the same because you have your people that are on top. WCW. Uh, you know, you had your superstars that thought they were superstars that didn't have a clue. They bankrupt the fucking company, paid themselves. Some of these guys walked to their mailbox every week and got a check for 80 fucking grand. I'd wrestle naked for 80 grand. You know what I'm saying? One time.
Yeah.
But they got it. They got stuff like that every week, But I, it's a total different thing. Our days, the boys took care of each other. But you got to see it. But back in the NWA days, we came fake. You didn't sit down and go over your matches. Hell, you never seen the heel. You never seen the heels of the baby faces till you got in the ring. We so strict, and especially us. We never got our finish till we got in the ring. We didn't, you didn't go over matches. You didn't go over hot spots. And all they would we do it in the ring. Tommy Young say the heels are gonna fuck y'all in the match, or he says baby face over, or Broadway. Either one of the three, and you did it yourself in the ring. You hear me? We were professional enough and knew where our angles were going, and it did good. It's back then. You'd never seen the baby face. Hell, for Bill Watts, man, Jesus Christ, you got caught talking to the heel baby face or the heel talk. That's even out of the in the public. You were fired. I never forget this right here. This really blew my mind. I knew Johnny Walker wrestling too for years. I've known him for years, but I never seen him with his mask off. And I'm not bullshitting you, and I was in Walmart. I never forget this in Alexandria, Louisiana. That's where we lived at. And I'm back there looking at Walmart. And the guy walks up to me, started talking to me, and I didn't know who the hell he was. I knew the voice. I never told him this. I knew the voice, but it took me a few minutes to realize, fuck, it was wrestling too, because I'd never seen Johnny Walker with his hood off. That's how kayfabe our business was. And
Wow.
it blew my mind. I knew him for years too. He had two masks. I mean, he put his mask on, and then even when he took a shower, he took his other mask. He took one mask out, had one on up under it, a little thin one. So I didn't know who in the hell he was. I mean, that's how kayfabe our business was, and the difference between the locker rooms, because baby faces never seen each other, and the heels never seen each other. When our business was really the business.
And how was working with the Road Warriors?
Animal and Joe. same thing, dude. This is in Louisiana, our territory. Like, man, we done popped this territory, buddy. We got her going. Hawk and an Animal, Joe and Mike. Never met these guys. We're at the Superdome, and first time I ever worked with them. You heard about them beating people up. You heard about them hurting people. But you got to understand this. Louisiana was our territory. Okay? I got to go out there and wrestle these guys, and I can't let them kill me off. And if I do, I have to take, I got to take an ass whooping. Because, fuck, if you shoot them, you piss them off. So I went to the ring, and really, there's a difference between, because we're in Superdome, that's 40,000 people, dude. Half of the Superdome's cut in half with a big curtain, and the people are so loud you can't hear nothing. And we're in a 8-man elimination match. It's the first time I ever met them now. Joe and Mike became great friends of mine after all this. But I have to stand up for me. I mean, if it's an ass whooping, but I don't want to go in there. And I remember Terry Gordy and Joe, which is Animal, started the match off. And I guess they just come back from Japan. And holy shit, they are hitting each other so hard. Bam, the big old fuckers, man. Bam, bam, bam. And Terry Gordy takes a bump. And he tags me. I went, holy shit. Now, you got to know when people are business and when they're not business. I don't know. I just know I rode in the ring. Joe grabbed me. He says, duck my clothesline, hit me with the drop kick, and hit Hawk with the drop kick when he comes in. So I did that. I hit Joe with the drop kick. He went over the top rope. I hit Mike with one. He went over the top rope out on the floor. I'm standing in the middle of the ring. 40,000 people are hollering rock and roll with my thumb up my ass. Because you know what? After all that, they were business. They knew. Okay? I didn't have to tell them. They knew. So that's my first impression of them. They were business guys. And matter of fact, they put us over. But then, as the years when I worked territories with them, I came, even right now, me and Joe are good friends. Joe's my buddy. Animal, when Hawk died, he passed away. Hawk was a crazy son of a bitch. But, they left their mark in the wrestling business. Man, they were something new too to our business. They started a new trend too.
Is it true that Robert had a bit of a tough guy reputation backstage?
Well, I mean, the part about being tough. You know what? In our business, in any business, uh, a lot of people can be tough, but that first lick's a son of a bitch. You understand me? I try not to fight. I never fought with the boys. I mean, but we, being who we are, we were the little guys, and we ran into, I don't know, but when trouble happened, Robert Robert was a tough motherfucker. You hear me? He, it's like me. I was tough enough to take an ass whooping. You see, and in our business, in any business, if somebody knows you're a fight, they won't fight with you. They just don't want to waste their time. You know what I'm saying? If you know they're going to fight. Our big thing, I remember our first, well, this is for Baba, when we first went on our first tour to Japan. They had a team there called Footloose. They were the Rock and Roll Express of Japan. And we're there for a month. We hadn't worked with them yet, but I watch. See, that's what I always watch the matches. In case I work with you, I know what you do, what you don't do, what kind of spots to call. And I knew we were going to work with them. It's like 2 weeks in the match, and we were working with them. And they told us to go 30 minutes through. So I asked them, you're going to do high spots. They looked at me. So I get no hot spot, no hot spot. I'm like, okay, what the fuck? So we go to the ring and we're supposed to go 30 minutes Broadway. And we get to the ring and one of them hauls off and open hand slaps Robert. When he did that, it was about 30 seconds. Robert had him bit over that rope. This fucker looked like Elephant Man, and his face is all so. Robert beat the living fuck out of him. And then he jumped out of the ring, and both of them went back to the heel dressing room. And I looked at Robert. I says, well, I guess we're fired. He goes, hell, we was looking for a job when we found this son of a bitch. He jumps out of the ring, goes straight back in. You know, you didn't do that there. He went right in their dressing room. I'm right behind him. The guy was sitting there. He walked over and footballed him right in the damn face. All the Japanese boys and everybody comes in and gets us out. And I said, holy fuck. Didn't know what was happening. But the next day, we're on the bus and we're pulling up to the building. And I told Robert, I said, man, there's a 2 foot-loose guys. They're standing right there waiting for us to pull up. You know, I don't know. They're right there. So, hell, me and Robert ran to the front of that bus. That door opened up. We jumped off right there in front of them. But we didn't know. You know, you got to stand your ground, bro. In this business, you got to be who you are. And when you jumped off, they're standing in front of us. And they go, look in front of us. They're real straight. They go, tonight we do many, many hot spots. Like this right here. And then they picked our bags up and carried them in the door. So I guess we got their attention, got their respect. But Robert, he can handle himself. You know what I'm saying? He's, to be an old fucker, he still does.
Were you in WCW when Eric Watts had his scuffle with Rick Rude?
No, I wasn't.
No.
I didn't know they even had a scuffle. Tell me
Apparently
about it.
they did, yeah. A bunch of people have told the story, but I guess it was before or after your time there.
Uh, I don't know. I didn't. I know Rick Rude. I don't know what Eric's doing fucking with Rick Rude. But I don't know. I don't know the situation. What happened? You know. Uh,
How did
what's that?
I was going to just say, how did you like when they turned you heel in WCW?
Well, it wasn't a part. I didn't have a job. Okay. Robert knee was out. I didn't. Robert blew his knee out real bad, and he was out for a year. They turned me heel before I could have a job. And if you noticed, when Robert came back from his knee surgery, I wrestled him on pay-per-view and I beat him. And me and him left and went to Smoky. We left that night and I went to Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Okay. I didn't even give my notice. I was total hell with it. I loved working with Terry Taylor and Alexandria York, which is Terry Reynolds. You know what? We had a decent gimmick and it got over, but they didn't want us over. Do you understand me? The people running the business didn't want me and Terry to be over. They didn't want it to work. We were another. They because me and Terry go to the ring and they were great. You know, I never forget one time me and Terry Taylor we went to the ring and that's when Todd Champion. I don't know if you remember him
Yeah.
and Curtis Thompson. They were teamed up. And Todd Champion's just coming back. He's been out for a while, but dude, he's all steroid up. He's like this right here, and here's Curtis Thompson. He's real big. He ain't got no neck. This is how bad. To me, a lot of people don't know, and WCW pushing people that they shouldn't be pushing. And Todd Champion just came back. He was, I used to call him Todd Green. Want to be a champion, yeah. But he just came back to work. You know, he's been on a hell of a cycle, all steroid up, and Curtis Thompson, and And we start the match. I start the match off, and he slams me. And I told him, I said, Todd, I said, just a little harder, and I'll go plump through the ring. So I said, tag Curtis in. His name's Curtis Thompson, Chip the Farbreaker, or whatever his name was. So he tags him in, and God, man, he hit me so hard. And Terry run in because he seen it. And I seen three of Terry. And Terry asked me, says, are you all right? I says, yeah, Terry, I'm all right, but these guys are killing me. So I hauled off and hit Terry Taylor, the one in the middle of the
Right.
three I seen. Hey, and then me and him had a match, and they're standing over there about the rope in their corner. Me and Terry had about a 10-minute match. Roll them up, 1, 2, 3, go back to the dressing room. Hey, and Grizzly Smith is the agent. And he's, what are y'all doing? I says, man, what am I doing? I said, why don't you go out there and work with them two guys? They're killing me. I can't. I said, look here, me and Terry Taylor had a very better match wrestling each other than we did with them. So that was
Was
my
that a
experience
TV
then.
taping or was that a house show?
I was a house show in Phoenix, Arizona,
Okay.
but it got over like a son of a bitch. But, you know, just working it back and forth. It was good.
You obviously got along with Terry. Why do you think a lot of people didn't get along with Terry? Was it just because he was in an office position or?
Uh, well, I really don't know. You know, I got to say this for Terry, too. He got a set of balls on him. You know, he didn't take no shit from nobody. He'd stand up for himself. But a lot of guys are like that. But, you know, he'd stand up. Hell, I seen him and the Sheik get to fight one time. I'm talking about Cause. You know, Terry wasn't afraid to get his ass whooped. And, but uh, I really don't know. I guess Terry's outspoken. A lot of us don't. Yeah, I don't know, dude. I used to be. I don't know if it's because I got older and mental out or
Yeah.
medication doctor put me on. I don't know.
What was the thing with Terry and Iron Sheik over?
Oh, they get into it at a bar, and you know what? And they both of them drinking, and I gotta say this, man. It was in the and Terry. He hit Cos, but see, Terry was smart. He hit him, boy. He took a bump. Cos did, and he took off running. Terry did. Next day, we're at the Omni, and the Sheik. You got to know the Sheik. The Sheik is. I love him, man. But he's funnier and shit. He's there at 4 o'clock. He's got his shoot. You know, Kaz had a. I call him Kaz, but he the Iron Sheik. You know, he had a shooting outfit and a working outfit. He had an outfit to go over and an outfit to lose in. It was, you know what I'm saying? Oh, he had his shooting shit on. And he was there, buddy. He was there at 4 o'clock, man. He's waiting for Terry Taylor to come in the door. But Dusty got a hold of wind of it and calmed it down. You know, it's funny. Don't say USA, goddammit. All right.
Is he really like that off camera, or was that kind of an angle for
No,
YouTube?
that was it. No, that's his name. Have you never met Darn Sheik?
Just
Uh,
in recent years when he's not doing too well health wise now.
yeah, man, he's he was crazy, dude. I remember we were going to Columbus, Georgia, to do a TV taping, and we were riding with Michael Hayes and Jimmy Garvin. Me and Kaz were in the back, and uh, and on the highway it goes. But you have to know the sheet to understand this. It said roadblock up ahead, drug check. Whether Jimmy Garvin and Michael both had a bag of weed. They go, oh my God, it's a road check. They handed it back to Kaz and told him to throw it out the window. Well, he rolled the window down, but he didn't throw it out. He just put it in his pants. But when we got down there, it was where you got off the exit where they had that. We didn't even get off at that exit. And Michael Hayes was going, holy shit, man, we threw our weed out. We didn't have to do this. Or well, we didn't have to do it. Then Kaz pulls them both out. And they go, "Oh, thank you so much." And oh, thank you, my ass. This belonged to Sheik. No, no, Sheik take care. Sheik keep. And,
That's
but
funny.
you had to be there to understand this. That's the way Sheik was. He was funnier than shit, man. Uh, he'd come up with some. I don't know if you remember a guy named Doug Furness.
Yes.
He was real big in Japan, but he did a little deal with him. When Sheik could grab the microphone, he'd get away with anything because he speak broken English. He'd get on the microphone and call him Doug Fuckness. you know, he could get away with that. Hey, but the office didn't even catch on to what he was doing. But I Doug Fuckness. I think he passed away, didn't he, Doug Furness?
I'm not
From Sh-
sure. I know he was three men with Phil LaFon for a long time, but I haven't heard of them wrestling forever.
no, he passed away. Doug did. Yeah, sure did. I know he did.
And for the Freebirds, how were they to work with?
Uh Terry Gordy, Terry Gordy was a big boy. He was big. Hell, when he was 16 years old, he was heavyweight champion. This is years ago before you had the athletic commissions. He was just a natural. He was great. Michael Hayes is one of the best talkers at that time. That's what really got them over in Buddy Roberts. But Michael, I don't. Have you ever seen the dictionary for professional wrestling? And it has, and you look up stiff. Okay, that's and when you look it up, it's a picture of Michael Hayes standing beside that son of a bitch. No, I'm just kidding. Michael had no. When you were in the ring with him, he didn't know that you was in the ring with him. You know what I'm saying? He'd turn around, pop, hit you upside the head, knee and nuts. No concept that you was in the ring with him. I see the. I remember years ago, especially down south here, Don and Jackie Fargo were really, really over. They were big times in the South. But Don Fargo, Michael Hayes is working with him, and he's going to get Kizoller. So he put on his finger, laid on his finger. Look here, he didn't know. He never did this before. Look here, he went out there and Don Fargo come back. He was cut all up. He done he looked like a jigsaw puzzle. He cut him up. But the Freebirds were over, bro, especially in Dallas, Texas. They had a hell of a run with the Von Erichs. And, but Michael and Terry, Robert and Michael grew up together, as kids. They used to hitchhike to the TV station every Saturday in Pensacola, Florida to put the ring up. That was their way of breaking into the business and refereeing. Uh, Robert's real name is not Robert Gibson; it's Reuben, and Michael still calls him Reuben. He never calls him Robert. It's always Reuben. That's where they grew up together.
And you feuded with the gangsters in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. How was working with New Jack?
It was, yeah, it was an experience. They, you know what? Especially at that time, we're down south. This is right after the. And don't get me wrong, when I talk about this interview, please don't think anything bad about me or any of that. But this is this is in the early '90s during Smoky Mountain Wrestling. And, times were different then. You got these two gangsters come in, Robert and I, all American white baby faces. Uh, and they really, here they come out on TV eating watermelon and fried chicken, really, really putting white people down. And that's right after they on TV where Rodney King got beat up, in California, and we did an angle where they Rodney King me. Okay, and New Jack, he drove a Corvette, but it's badass car. And I told him, I says to Jack, listen, bud, You need to park that Corvette and go buy you a $200 or $300 car, because you could buy $200 or $300 cars and and drive. I said, because these fans are going to tear your car. And then he did. He had an old van. Look here, man, they knocked the windows out of it, cut his tires. I think he carried a set of tires in the back of it. Uh, there's a lot of heat, and I'm not into racial shit, but but off that TV, holy shit, they him and Mustafa both but it was a learning process for New Jack in Smoky Mountain, because when he left here, he went to ECW, and he really had a good run there. Made himself some, he did good himself in the bit. He did good for himself there. Helped him out a lot.
Were you surprised Terry Reynolds ended up dating him for a while?
Nah, ain't none of my business. That's none of my business. Both of them, you know, have something to say, but I don't listen. It's not my business, bro. No. If she liked him, he liked her. It don't bother me a bit.
How was Tammy Sitch back in the Smoky Mountain days?
How you talk about Tammy Finch,
Or yeah,
Sonny?
yeah.
You know what, man? She, she dated Chris Candido. I love Chris. Chris, I have a worker. Gosh, man, he left this world way too soon. He was absolutely wonderful. But Tammy, she was at that time, we was all young at one time. She was beautiful. She had her ways, you know. Back then, she was real straight. At that time, I smoked cigarettes. I don't, I quit smoking. I don't. Hell, I did a lot of drugs, smoked a lot of cigarettes. She'd bitch about me smoking, bitch about me being fucked up, and then, brother, she did a complete turnaround. Now I'm cleaned up and she's fucked up all the time. But that's her own business. It's none of mine. I always liked Sonny. She, like I told you earlier, I treated people the way they treated me. You're nice to me, I'm nice back. If you're an asshole, I treat you back like an asshole.
Did she ever come on to you or anything over the years because she was
No,
known
no,
for?
that's another thing. I was telling you earlier, and I'm repeating myself. I never messed around with the. I never, one time in my life, never. I never messed with the girls in our business. I respected them. I didn't care what they done. Uh, I know them all, from Missy Hyatt to Deborah, Medusa. They were all friends of mine. Uh, you know, uh, no, I didn't. I didn't come on to them. I didn't uh, mess with them like that. I respected the girls, and I still do. Like on independent shows, the girls coming there, I make I tell all the guys to get up, let the girls get dressed, or go in the bathroom and tell somebody to watch the door. Because I still respect that. That's what I hate about the independent wrestling nowadays. Because I'm from the old school, boy, and I really get on their ass too. The guys, I'm going to the dressing room. I said, "Who's the girl?" "Oh, it's my girlfriend." "Your girlfriend's in the dressing room here where the guys are getting dressed." Uh, oh yeah, I'll cut interviews on them, get them. They try to do that. Then sometimes what I do is, especially if Robert's on the show, and I'll say this, I don't know if you know the difference between me and Robert. With the, I'll walk up and put it in. He puts it in and walks up. I just tell him, "Yeah, all right, listen to me. Hey, take your clothes off, Robert." He people ask me all the time. He says, "How come he walk around the dressing room naked?" I said, "I had a dick like that, I'd wrestle naked. I ain't shit. You duck the dick liner, motherfucker." Dick drag. but I'm serious. I just tell the guy, because you know I don't know what these young talent even thinking about. This is a dressing room. And here you got your girlfriend in here. What, listening to your match, going over your spots? Listen to this. This is where the guys get dressed at. Get the fuck out of here. Now, a lot of times they don't have two dressing rooms, but that's like I was telling you earlier, the lady wrestlers. I make all the guys go out. I said, man, y'all go out for these girls to get dressed. They're over dressing behind a towel or something. I said, go out of here. But that's my feelings about that right there. I always, I never mess with none of the girl wrestlers. I never did.
What was your reaction when you first heard about the Midnight Rockers?
Oh, I thought it was a compliment. A lot of people, they didn't make me. I known Sean. No, Sean was in Louisiana with us when he was a kid. When Robert and I were, he worked underneath. Uh, and then Marty Jannetty, I know Marty for a long time. And that's Fern's thing. That what Vern Gagne didn't put that together. The Midnight Rockers. They took the Rock and Roll Express and the Midnight Express. It's just a trip downtown, Bob. They're trying to make a little money. They're trying to get over. Sometimes you go to extremes, and sometimes you have to listen to the booker. Didn't bother me a bit. Because I know what me and Robert did, and I know what we're capable of, and what we did do.
And Marty Jannetty is a pretty good guy. Have you had much talk with him over the years?
Oh, I see Marty all the time. His foot messed up. We all have our demons, and Marty still does. You try to talk to him, but sometimes you better off talking to a tree than to talk to people. And in situations like that, life passes you by so quick. It seems like yesterday. It was 1985, and that's God darn, that's 35 years ago. You hear me? Just that quick. And you can't live in yesterday, and nobody cares no more. Yeah, nobody cares.
Did Shawn Michaels treat you respectfully when you were in the WWE in later years?
Oh yeah, he did a. Sean was a cool guy, man. I watched him grow up in the business. I got to say that he's the second to me being a babyface. If you don't believe me, just ask me. I told you that twice. He had a great time. He had a hell of a run. You see, our business is being at the right place at the right time and knowing what to do when they ask you to it without hesitation. That's why I have wrestling schools to teach people this. Sean, he's in small territory too. He just didn't happen to wake up one day. He went on his own, and dude, you can't blame him for that. I mean, look where he is now. He's
Yeah.
still with WWE.
And there was a fan question from Zachary Carter that wanted to know how was the money when you were working for Jim Crockett Promotions when you guys were headlining the card compared to when you were working the undercard for like Dusty and Flair?
Uh, no, okay. This is this is all my fault, okay? Because I wasn't educated enough to know. We were breaking records, but I was working on top. And I'm going to tell you this right here. See, because I can't blame nobody but myself. Jimmy Crockett absolutely robbed us blind. Uh, that's how come they bought new airplanes and they bought this and they bought uh, things like that. Right there. For instance, my biggest year in the business was $125,000. You okay? That was for only 1 year. And then when I got a divorce, that was gone. You hear me? It's completely gone. Uh, you take for this is at the 1986, I think they came out with the Rock and Roll Express fan club, and in that fan club, I just posted some other day. You got a life-size poster, a record, you part of the fan club that sold for 19.95, and that's why I have I did a record that's actually horrible. Instead of being, a lot of them go platinum and go, mine went plywood. No, I'm just kidding. But no, it sold over 1 million copies. The Rock and Roll Fan Club sold over 1 million copies for 1995. You can literally say that's $20 million. Me and Robert didn't get a dime of it. They screwed us. And then when it was too late, we tried to sue them, but they already declared bankruptcy. You understand me? So we got nothing. But this is what I'm trying to tell all young wrestlers out there in their head: get your education. Uh, don't let this business get caught up in this business and the position you're in. Because I have people see out when I worked on top, guys, and this is what's different about nowadays. There's a lot of people that worked here, a lot of people worked here, but when you work here, and when I'm talking about working here, when you have people dependent on you to feed their families. That's the reason I never had no problem with the boys in the businesses, because I fed them. We sold out houses, everything we did, and that's we use on a pay rate of that. Uh, but like I'm trying to tell you, dude, sometimes things are good, sometimes it's bad. But literally, it was absolutely robbed. So it's nobody's fault. I'm not mad at nobody. It's my own fucking fault because I didn't have the education enough to know that they were screwing me royally, and I didn't even get a kiss.
There was another fan, Jen Sullivan, wanted to know what your biggest disagreement with Robert was over the years behind the scenes.
Do do you really know Robert?
I don't know him other than watching your matches.
Hey, me and Robert hadn't never seen eye to eye. You don't get that, do you? Hey, it's a joke. One of Robert's eyes go like this.
Okay.
Okay, me and him's never seen eye to eye. That's a joke. I love Robert. I can get away with that. Anybody else, you can't. Not. You know what? I've been with Robert more than I have been with my wife. You hear me? 30. We've been together what 37, 38 years. Before we even come, but now I've been on the road with him. It's like being married to him. It's like being with your wife. Disagreements. Holy shit. That's a lot of the boys on the road. They love to get us going. Me and Robert going in the dressing room. Because me and him a bitch fight with each other. But everything we ever done, we never once tried to hit each other. Never once threatened each other. We fought like cat and dogs. Hey, we fight. Me and him fight more than me and my wife do. Okay, but it's just over little shit. Who's right and who's wrong? That don't really mean nothing. But Robert's and I told this on the WWE Hall of Fame when we got inducted in there. At the end of it, I told him that, and I meant it from my heart. I love him just like he's my own brother. I've been with him more than my own brothers. So,
Yeah.
we have that bond together.
And how was working with Paul Heyman over the years? I know he was in WCW with you at the same time.
I knew Paul. I didn't, I never did angles with him. I went when he was at WCW. Yeah, I did a little bit with him in ECW. He just brought me in. He was just a friend of mine. Paul's got a great mind on him too, buddy. And then when we was talking about managers earlier, I forgot to mention him. I knew Paul when he's a little bitty skinny guy, had a head full of hair. Uh, but but time goes on. I never had no problems with Paul.
You've managed to keep your hair. Any hair tips for anyone out there?
Well, no, no, no. See, I have the mullet, and when you have the mullet, you can cover up a lot of it. You hear me? Hair tips. It's like, Robert lost his hair. I was telling Robert that when we was somewhere, it's back in the winter time and it was cold as a son of a bitch. And Robert was talking about his hair. I said, Robert, I mean, you can always shave your head and go as a Russian. He said, a Russian? I said, yeah. I said, you call yourself Balls Frozen Off. No, but no, dude, it's, how hair is. It runs in your family line. It's in your genes.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm lucky. But I'm thin haired right here in the back. It's just that it's long enough. I'm not at the point where I have to do the comb over yet. But when I do that, but inside my pigments right here are real light. It's where I bleached my hair for years, and it I guess killed the pigments in my hair right here in my skin line. See right here.
Yeah.
So that's
Well, you're doing a lot better than me, and I'm younger than you, so I'm jealous.
I got you, buddy.
For the NWA angle in WWE, a lot of fans wanted to know if you think they could have worked that better and made it a big success.
For
For when they brought you with Jim Cornette in WWE,
no,
not
no, no, buddy. You know what? When you when you have two big companies like that, we worked on top. Nowadays, see, this is what really, and I really think what really hurts the business is that you bring people that work on top in one company to work on top of your company. And don't get me wrong, I love people, but you're taking a product that they don't want and you bringing it to yours, and you're seeing the same shit all the time. That's the reason it seems like you see the same shit all the time. I knew that when we worked NWA with two different companies. I knew when I went to the part of going to WWF, I knew what was going to happen. They weren't going to let us get over any of their boys, well, which they didn't need to. We're a whole different company. But as nowadays is watching TV, and I'm glad for the guys. Don't get me wrong; these are great talents, and some of them are in great positions. But you just can't bring everybody because you see what I'm saying.
yeah.
What you don't want, you're trying to give it a push here, and I promise you, it's not working. Uh, I mean, you got a lot of new talent out there, and I'm glad for them. And all you new talent, and I told you, always be prepared. Go to wrestling schools that people can really teach you, not somebody that nobody knows, because our business is being at the right place at the right time. And when you're at the right place at the right time and knowing what to do, uh, that's what I look at. I know I'm a ball and I done bounced from here because you asked me this question. But the best way to answer that is not what I'm saying. When you have two big major companies like that, and unless you're somebody really special, and that I'm curious to know, when we do start back up, which I can't wait for the business to start back up. Be out and seeing the fans, is watching how the attendance comes back, watching see what they're doing. I don't know because I haven't been keeping up with what the ratings are doing with no people in the.
They're not doing well. They're around zero point 0.5 for
Are they
WWE,
really?
and they're in the
Okay.
0.2s
Oh,
for AEW.
you got to be kidding me. We'll see. They need to give them something it, a little bit better. I was going. Oh yeah, no. What I was going to say is to all the boys in WWE, NXT, and AEW. Do you really know how hard it is to perform in front of no crowd? It's yeah. I don't know about anybody else, but for me, I base myself off the crowd reactions. I told a story in my match off the crowd reaction. That's why I can't wait. I'm on a pay per view this Saturday night, my son and I, and we're wrestling on a pay per view with no crowd uh, up in Charleston, West Virginia. So uh, I'm looking forward to it, but I know how hard it's going to be. and how much harder you have to work. A lot of the fans, and okay, here you go. I'll be an asshole. A lot of the marks, they really don't understand how a bump really feels. When you get your adrenaline going, you take that big bump. But when that adrenaline's not going, you take that big bump. It hurts like a son of a bitch. You hear me? It hurts. You
Yeah.
know that extra potato from Idaho hurts like a son of a bitch. That's what you know. You get where I'm coming from. If you've
Oh
been in
yeah.
the ring, if you hadn't been in the ring, you don't know. And that's my answer to that, buddy.
And for the Midnight Express, what was your favorite version of the Midnight Express?
Oh, I love both of them. And the reason, but you see, you got to understand there was like 5 or 6 different versions. It first started off as Randy Rhodes and Nova Austin. I don't know if you know those guys. Then it
Yeah.
was Randy Rhodes and Dennis Condrey. Then it was Norvell Austin and Dennis Condrey. But Bobby Eaton and Dennis when they went together. But see now, I don't know what happened to Dennis, but we're in the middle of an angle, buddy. We're selling out everywhere, and Dennis Condrey pulls a Houdini. I mean, he just disappears. Never asked him why. It was none of my business. Had to be something urgent. But see, when you have a great worker now, Stan Lane was part of the Fabulous Ones in Memphis. You remember that we played
Yeah.
second fiddle to, but he was a hell of a worker. They were baby faces there, but Stan was he's that good looking guy, that body, that heel, that made look here he made the men jealous as shit of him. He had that body, he had that look, and when your girlfriend's in the bar looking at you, hated him. But you see, it's hard, and I tell you again in a minute. It's hard for somebody to come in and take their place. But Stan was that good of a worker that when they replaced Stan with Dennis, it was just that charisma Stan had that they didn't miss a beat. And I seen that again because and it was Stan Lane, the one that left this time when we were in Smoky Mountain. Him and Tom Pritchard were the heavenly bodies, and Stan left, and Jimmy brought this kid in the dressing room, introduced me to him. He's a little redheaded kid with one tooth missing. And I'm looking at it and I'm going, holy shit. And it was Jimmy Del Rey. And I'm going, God, man, what's he got? But when I got to the ring and locked up with him, but I knew he was money. He was that good. Jimmy Del Rey was. I mean, he was absolutely phenomenal, buddy. And being a small territory and him coming in and carry that load, God, it was great.
Any favorite match of you against either version of the Midnight Express?
Well, scaffold matches, they were great. You know what I'm saying? You know what, man? I've been wrestling for 38 years, and I figured out that, I'm serious, over 10,000 matches. It's hard for me unless I'm watching the match to remember a match. I had so many. Uh, a lot of times things just got crazy. Uh, I think I told you this earlier. I cut my TV on downstairs, and it shows old clips that I don't even remember uh, of people that I've wrestled, and it's a lot of things going on. Hold on just for a second. You can cut this
Yeah.
out, can't you?
Yeah.
You what? I thought you were going to the bank. Okay. Bye. All right, I'm back with you. Sorry. Hey, you got a couple more questions to ask me. I'm gonna have to take my boy.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
So a couple more questions. You were in WCW in '96. Didn't last very long. What was the purpose of that?
WCW me?
When you were in WCW in 1996,
Oh,
uh, it didn't last very long. Did they sign you to a contract, or was that just for a few shots
no, just for a few shots.
during the
You know
Nitro?
what? And this is what I was telling you earlier. Uh, yeah, I couldn't get a contract. I don't know why. A lot of times the people were scared of me. And not because of that. It's just because when they bring you in, and I told you earlier, with a big company, I would like to have my job. Okay, you hired me for Ricky Morton's job. I don't want this guy's job. I don't want his job. I don't want him to be scared that I'm coming after his job. That's what's hard for me because I'm telling you guys, nobody has the answers to everything in this business. But I know how to put asses in seats. I know how to get ratings on TV. A lot of times I don't tell. Well, I mean, we're sitting here talking right now, and I gave you a few, but it's a lot of other things you can do too. Uh, WWE needs to do it. AEW needs to do it. A lot of times personalities clash. If it hadn't yet, it's going to. Promise you that. Promise you that. You have to be ready for that. You got to have, in everything that you do, you got to have a plan B. You know, when you're doing things and this guy don't like, you got to have a plan B. And when you shoot an angle, it's like writing a book. You got to write the ending first. And when you do that right there, it seems like to me they just jumping from week to week doing things. Oh, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. Oh, that didn't work, so we erase that. Do this. Uh, it's got like scrambled eggs. You don't have an answer to nothing. So at that point of me being there, I just looking to get paid every week. That was all. That was all I was looking for.
And the last guy I'll ask you about is Gino Hernandez. You briefly mentioned him earlier, but do you have anything else to say about him?
Gino, in his prime, buddy, he was he was it. Him and Tully Blanchard. Gino, he had that body on him. He had that charisma about him that you hated him. No, but he could talk. I mean, and 90% of our business is talking. And God, he was just that great talker that you could the people believed it and they hated him. I remember when he left San Antonio to go to TBS. Uh, he wouldn't wrestle on TV. If you want to watch me wrestle, you got to pay to see him, and I loved that. He and being in San Antonio, we were all young. We was learning again. He was another talent that left the world way too early, but sometimes you gotta. It's just the way it happens. I like Gino. He was, I had my times with him. I tell you, Gino liked the gimmick. Uh, I was first of all, I'm wrestling in Houston, Texas, and in our business, I'm not here to insult anybody's intelligence. I got a little color, and it was his time, and I'm watching him. If you people could see me, here we are. We're at Sam Houston Coliseum. There's 8,000 people. I'm bleeding. I take the chain from him, and I hit him. Well, when I hit him, he just stops. He pulls his arm up, pulls it out. He looks at it like this, and then and I'm losing my mind. I run over and I hit him. I said, "Go up under the ring and do that." Well, boom! I hit him. He goes up out and he goes up under the ring, but there's no Gino. Well, boom! I went hell, so I jumped out of the ring and I looked up the cover like I'm going up under there. Hell, he's snorting him a lot of cocaine up under the ring. Oh, I like to shit when I see that, man. You want one? Well, hell no, man. We're in the fucking middle of a match, you dumbass. Uh, but that's a true story. Really
Was
happened.
that in his trucks, or had he like stored it under the ring earlier?
Oh, I don't know. He had a vial. It was in a vial. He's pouring it out, hitting it. I'm going, what the hell, dude?
Wow.
You know what? I did a lot of shit, but I didn't. Uh, but I didn't do cocaine. Go to the ring. I mean, when I got through wrestling, it was my time, and I guess it's a really bad problem. Not a bad problem, but I just didn't give a shit. You hear what I'm saying? It wasn't the part
Now,
that I did so much of. It's just if I had it, I'd done it in front of somebody, and they tell on you. Everybody tells on you.
in the 80s, what percentage of wrestlers would you say did that stuff?
There's no drugs.
Yeah, seems like a very high percentage did.
Not oh yes. The ones that you thought that was doing it wasn't doing it. And I say this. He's your world champion, Ric Flair. That goes out. Rick was drug free. You know that, don't you? Now, he drank like a fucking fish, but he did no drugs. A lot of the guys did drugs. Okay. Everyone I knew did, besides Flair. you know, uh, I, it was hard. Like I told you earlier, man. One night you're in Miami, next night you're in Portland, Oregon. The time zone, the dad. And you had to have some help to get through what we did and everything. You know what? But I'm not trying to cut your interview short here. I gotta. Uh,
Yeah, do you want to just let people know about your wrestling school to
oh
close
yeah, I
this off?
want to let people know everything about me. I'm on Facebook under Ricky Morton. Facebook School of Morton. Instagram Real Ricky Morton. Uh, no, Twitter Real Ricky Morton. Instagram Ricky Morton. The hell, I don't know. I got so many I don't know. Just look. Hey, I tell you what you do. Just punch in Ricky Morton, you get it.